Funny.
Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsport. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm all right. I was worried about the delay there before you said hi. I was wondering if maybe we lost you.
No, I'm here.
You're
I'm
good.
here. I can hear you.
You're so good.
You are breaking up just a little bit, though. I don't know what's
am?
going on there,
Why would I
but
be breaking up?
yeah, just a second there. We didn't
Maybe
do our
it's you.
sound check, and I got a
Check.
little chatter going on there. Yeah,
You do. Hey,
on this Monday evening.
that was fantastic.
You got
You
your
got a
coffee?
nice, you
Looks
got
like you
good
got your
light
coffee.
there. I do have my coffee. 7:30. It's the
You
time
know,
for
I got my
coffee.
circle light going on. You know, the one that shines on you like you're in a studio?
I do know the circle light. I have one too. I have
Yeah.
it for work.
Mine's on. Mine's right over there.
Yeah, I know.
It's
I
kind
can
of to
see
the
it
side. I
sometimes in
only
your
use it for
glasses.
this. You can see it in the reflection of my glass. Look,
Yeah, exactly right. If you're
Yeah.
not listening to the podcast and watching us on YouTube, you can see it, ladies and gentlemen, listeners,
Yeah.
boys and girls.
Yeah. So I need to get that bike off the bike rack is what I need to do and start riding. That's what I really need to do.
Yeah, you do. I rode yesterday.
Oh, you
Just
did?
a little simple one. Just got out and rode.
It was cold.
Yeah, needed to do
By
something.
yourself?
I was tired. Yep, by myself.
By yourself?
Yep.
Oh. That's odd for you.
Not really.
You just
I wasn't
needed
feeling the
seems a little
people-y
odd for you.
mood kind of thing. I just wanted to ride real quick. So,
No, you were done with that. Were you
Yeah.
looking for our latest listener? I don't know if he's a writer or not.
I was not, but you know what? We're going to talk about that. I have something before
I
we get
think
to
we are,
listener
right?
comments. Yeah. Someone special celebrated a birthday in the last week. So I want to take a moment to wish a happy belated birthday to Milka Duno. Turned 52 on
Oh.
April 21st, this past weekend. You remember Milka, don't you? Remember, not just for her little tiff with Danica Patrick, but you do remember Miss Milka Duno, right? Argentinian
Yes, a
female
little bit.
IndyCar driver.
Not really. 52?
52.
Wow, it's older than us.
2000.
Someone else celebrated a birthday last week too.
Maybe. 2004, Miss Milka Duno. 2004 Rolex Grand Am Series Pontiac Riley Daytona prototype. There's a mouthful for you. 2004. Team with Ryan DeLale, Darren Manning, and Patrick Carpentier, all former IndyCar drivers. Finished second, which makes her the highest finishing female driver and highest Venezuelan driver to compete in that series. Happy birthday, Milka.
Oh my goodness. Happy birthday. I didn't know we were
birthday.
going there, but
I know.
we're going there. All right.
Hey, listener comments, which is where you were going with this, right? New YouTube subscribers, Josue Cano, Michael Marchetti. I'm going to say it that way. If I said it wrong, just let me know. Phil Mallinger and Trey Boston. Welcome. I know we have more than that over the past 10 days, but for some reason, YouTube doesn't always send us those names. I don't know what that means, or how that works.
You just got to look them up on the channel. You can see them all.
Can you? There you go.
Yeah.
Listener comments, Josue Cano was at Long Beach, and oh man, what an event. So many fans that know the drivers and follow the series. Energy was amazing. The stands were packed. It was awesome. I bring this one up because, Tim, you've already committed us to Long Beach for next year, haven't you?
Yeah, we're going. Next year, yeah, we're in. I feel like we've got a good rapport with the Long Beach Grand Prix, so we're going to try and make it out there.
There you go. Philip Mallinger, this is who you referenced earlier, found us thanks to the YouTube algorithm, right? He says, good discussion. The start in Long Beach was horrible. I agree. Needed to be waved off.
I thought he was talking about our start. I thought he was talking about our start.
That just goes without saying. And I'm glad, and he is glad to see RLL doing better, but their qualifying is still abysmal. Kirkwood continues to impress, finally putting it together. Armstrong looks like he could be a contender by mid-season. I think that's strong. Junko's results weren't great, but I think we take some bright spots. Also happy to see some lifelong IndyCar fans in the Detroit area. So Philip is a Detroiter, Timmy, just like me and you. Thanks for the comments
Yeah.
and thanks for the listen. We appreciate
So the
it.
question is, does he cycle? Right? That's the question.
Yeah, that's all we need.
If he cycles
I need a
and he
more
knows
reliable
IndyCar, he
cycling
could be the
partner.
next co-host. We know what's going on there.
If that were the case, he'd totally be in. It wouldn't even need to apply or screen test or do anything else. If he can string 2 sentences together, ride a bike, and show up reliably, I'm with him.
Shows how you see your co-host. 2 sentences, that's all we need.
That's all you need.
More than what we're getting
String
right
them
now.
together.
Yeah.
IMS testing, Timmy, what was supposed to be 2 days of testing was compressed into 1 day, just Thursday. I did listen to some of it on the radio. I started watching a little bit of the replay on Peacock, but I think you spent some time watching it, right?
It did. It was on in my office here, so I had it on. I didn't watch all of it, but it was in the background. It felt like May, you know. It was super nice down there, and the coverage was really good. It was very long. It kept going and going and going, and they extended it, right? So they extended it an hour in the morning and a half hour in the evening. So it was a lot to take in. But yeah, it was good to see them on track. Too bad it was only the 1 day, but that's the way it goes in April.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of knew it. At least they prepared for it for Thursday, so it didn't, it didn't shorten the time. I think everybody got out there to do what they wanted to do. I'm sure, they ran a lot of laps, so it looked like it looked pretty good.
And they did a lot of interviews too, so it was good just to hear the interviews as different drivers were going through. And I didn't hear most of them because I was doing other things, but it did see a lot of people go through, so that was good for the fans. And they talked to RC, who is officially now in the 500, at least an entry to make up the 34th entry. So that's happening. And then
no pressure.
They
RC.
talked to Ed Carpenter a little bit, and and so it was good to see what was going on at the track. It's funny though, when they first started, because I had tuned in, the dust that was coming off the track was amazing. Like, I think you'd go around and blow the whole track, but by the time you've got 30 minutes into the run, all the dust is gone. But it was super dusty, which was interesting to see.
Yeah.
I guess it's sad all winter, right?
Yeah, sure. My thoughts.
Yeah.
It's early. Super early. All right. As Twitter follower Evan Dawson likes to say, big deal. You know what? I think same. Big deal. It's not that I'm 100% dismissive of practice results. I'm not 100% dismissive of practice results, but we really have no idea what kind of test program or what people were trying to evaluate on track. They knew it was going to be a compressed session because it was likely Friday was going to be rained out. So we don't know what everybody was running on Thursday, downforce, engine tune, or what have you. So I say big deal, right? It's most of it. Just too early to tell.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, the engineers saying these are the things we want to sort of accomplish over this, 7-hour, whatever it was, period, 8-hour period. And so they were going through the checklist, and then they had to run the rookie orientation and the veterans. That's where they got to do so many laps at a certain speed and kind of work through. So it's kind of interesting seeing out of, Tony Kanaan having to go through the refresher and others going through the refresher, like Ryan Hunter-Reay and Marco Andretti and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I don't know what you can take from it. I think you can take that, the teams that have been fast in the past sort of look like they were fast. But I don't think anybody was, putting it all out there. And plus, you don't have the extra boost at this point, or the
Right.
engine that's turned up. So they weren't turning huge speeds, but they were turning speeds that were, big enough, right, for the average person to be out there. But yeah, it was good to see him on track. It was good to see some fans actually there too. There were some fans sitting in turn 2. They had that open, but they couldn't open the rest because I'm assuming the IndyCar GP that's going to happen there, they got to keep that track sort of under lock and key right now.
Yep. Nonetheless, with all of that as the backdrop, I do have just some kind of notable topics that I feel like emerged on that. The first and foremost is the wind was windy.
Yeah, that's what Ed had to say about the wind. It was windy. And I think that played into, what the teams actually did in the afternoon,
Yeah.
right? Because it got pretty gusty and cars were moving around. So I think they were taking into account all the different aerodynamic setups that they could do, which I know you're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And maybe they tried some different things because of that.
Yeah. And that is the second point, right? I know I give a lot of grief to the series about this, 11, 12-year-old chassis, right? It's the DW12, which means, from 2012, but it was in development in 10, 11. So let's just be kind, right? It's 12-year-old chassis. I know I give it a lot of grief, but the series has done a decent job in updating the chassis, certainly from a safety standpoint, notably with the halo and the aero screen. I know they don't refer to those two separately, but with the aero screen, and also finding these aerodynamic pieces, right? We had the standard kit when it first came out. Then we also had the aero kits that came from Honda and Chevy. And then we've gone into this, universal aero kit as well. So series has done a decent job with updating this chassis. So it might be too early to tell how some of these aerodynamic updates and some of the things that they're putting in place for teams to work with to try to make the show as good a show as they possibly can among the 33 entries on race day. So it's encouraging to me. Series is doing what they can to help the show.
Yeah, I agree. And, they did a walk around of the new aero pieces and what it was. And then Marshall did an article about it as well that you could see some more detail. So it was Kevin Lee doing it with the head engineer, the head guy over at Arrow McLaren. And so they walked around and they showed it, on live on camera, walked around the pits. It kind of reminded me of Jan Beekes and doing the technical stuff. And it was really good to see. And it was good for the fans, especially obviously it's the hardcore fans that are watching at this point, but for us to see what's going on with just the different types of aero pieces that they were allowed to do, and some that were mandated around the side pod to prevent a car from going over. So there's like little wickers on all around so that it doesn't flip. But it was nice, even on the rear end. What is that thing called? I want to call it the actuator, but that's whatever the attenuator thing is. The attenuator. They have a little wicker thing you can put on there, and you can put wickers now back on the back wings. So it's really cool. And then there's some way to direct it under the car, and then there's some on the front wing as well. See these little pieces that you can bolt on. We'll call it bolt on. And yeah, I think teams took advantage of the time they had to do different setups with those aero pieces.
Yeah. Craig Hampson is the Arrow McLaren engineer. I think that I didn't see it, but I'm assuming that's who it was. He's usually pretty informative. I ran into him at Detroit last year, waiting to get into the paddock, because there's some rule that teams and drivers can't get into the paddock before a certain time. There's like a curfew, or I don't know if you'd call it a park from 8, but it's a curfew, so to speak. And I saw him and I knew his name. I recognized him, and he was standing there, and he was really nice when I spoke to him, waiting to get into the paddock area. So that's cool. Craig Hampson. So Newgarden is, again, the IMS practice champ, though none of that has translated to success during the 500, unfortunately, over the last few years. And I think same could be said for the entire Penske team, for that matter.
Yeah, which is interesting. I didn't realize he was the
3 years in a row.
The top of the podium, top of the pagoda. No, top of the, what is that thing? The tower,
pylon.
The pylon. There you go. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about today. Top of the pylon, both practices. So obviously the first practice in this year, and then 2022 as well as 2021.
Right. Timmy, the long-awaited return of Ryan Hunter-Reay finally happened. RHR, Captain America, finished the day 14th. I'll call that right in the midfield. Right, wouldn't you?
Yeah, totally. It was right in the midfield. They look pretty strong too.
Yeah, they look pretty good. Good speed, it seems. Again, no idea what program they were running, but nonetheless, I mean, he had a year off, and he's coming back and seems to be right back on it with this program, Reinbold Racing. So it's good to see.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike, right? Once you've ridden it once, you can no problem riding it again. So yeah, he did a great.
I suppose
that whole team, they came out and they were pretty strong, which is good to see. So I don't know what that's going to translate when it comes middle of May when they're back out there doing the oval again. So we'll just have to see. But it looked promising, and they didn't look like they were struggling. Unlike the folks over at Juncos Hollinger, where Callum Ilott wasn't out there at all. So I don't know what was going on with that car, but it was pretty bad. So they've had some issues, and I think they were even excited that day 2 was canceled because I don't think they'd figured out what was going on with his car.
Yeah, it didn't seem they were
So
prepared to go
even
back
the
on the track.
announcers were talking about, maybe just do a chassis swap at that point.
Yeah. And Tim, it wouldn't be Indy without me looking at liveries, right? Let me get your take. The Newgarden shell livery.
Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. I was surprised to see on Twitter where they were showing that it was actually being sprayed. I didn't think any of these cars were sprayed anymore.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that too. One thing I did know from way back when I used to write for that other website is they do paint them all white before they can paint them a color, because then otherwise the colors don't cover the carbon fiber.
Yeah, it's got to be like a primer, right? Some
Yeah.
type of
So they
primer
do
that goes
paint
on there?
them all white, and then they paint them the colors that they need to be.
Yeah.
So it's not
I
doing
thought
it
they were
for
all
you.
stickers these days, but what do I know?
I agree. Yeah, like a vinyl wrap.
Yep. I don't even know the pylon's called a pylon.
Yeah. Don't know the attenuator is called an attenuator.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
It's okay. Last week I screwed up everybody's numbers, so I didn't have anybody's card numbers right. McLaren. What about the McLaren throwbacks?
I liked all their liveries. So I like the
I'd agree with
throwback.
you
I
there.
love Kanans with the stars. That's pretty cool the way that
That is
lays
pretty cool.
out.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are bummed over awards, but I kind of like the green with some sparkles in it. And I thought it was black, but I was told it was green. So you tell me, what's your take on that?
I liked them. I liked I liked them better than last year's. Right. I wasn't all up in arms about the olive green and all that stuff from last year, but I like the cars better than last year's. I think it's more true to the brand, and I like the way that it looks.
Yeah, last year was kind of like a Benetton, like plaid commercial or something going on there. I don't know what they were doing with those cars, but they were still cool then. Like I'm glad there's teams that are doing that, because I think it adds a little spice to it. You're like, oh wow,
Yeah,
what are they going to look like? And so they did like a launch and had it out there. So I enjoy that part of it. I think more teams are going to do more of that, right? Just because I think it draws attention, it draws fans, right? Fans, they're like, oh, they're really cool. Look at all the stuff they're doing. So
yeah, it just continues the lead up, right? The excitement toward the lead up to the race. What about the changes at Shank, right? The now pink and white and pink.
Yeah,
I think those are permanent, but nonetheless, they're coming.
I can't tell them apart from Kirkwood's car.
I don't know.
I don't. I couldn't tell what they changed on them. I have no idea what happened on the Shank side. They look quick too, though.
Well, we'll see.
Overall,
yeah.
I know we can't judge anything from it, but
that's right. Big deal.
They still look fast.
Stefan Wilson's DRR entry, kind of plain, but I feel like the colors pop, right? It's red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
And you like that.
And they were fast. So
blue.
Yeah. What's that?
And you like that lighter kind of blue on the cars. Like you like the NTT and
I do.
You like the American Legion car and all that stuff. So I think you like those.
I think I have to go back and look at that car actually.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember it that well. I know you sent me a text saying how you liked it.
Yeah.
So
any others that you noticed?
No, I can't tell you. I love Marco Andretti's colors. He's got the same as last year, so he's got that same sponsorship, the white and blue. So I think you're going to find him up front this year for some reason, and that's my prediction after seeing what I saw on Thursday and just looking at his demeanor and stuff like that. But anything else really pop? No, I don't think so. Dixon's always looked like Dixon's car. Nothing going on there. You've got the Husky chocolate, Marcus Ericsson. They were quick, of course. Yeah, no, it was good. It was just good to see him out on the track.
What else you noticed there?
Yeah, I noticed a few things on the telecast. They were talking about Indy 500 ticket sales, how they've surpassed last year at this time, and they're expecting a larger crowd than what they expected that they had in 2022. And we were there, and it was super busy. So if they're selling more tickets than what they sold last year, that's a great thing. So
yeah, it's super busy.
Yeah, look out if you're going. And I know a lot of the people that listen to us will be going. So You're going to have more people than what you normally have. Like other things that I noticed that they talked about, the bricks were relayed across the start finish line, and there's some commemorative bricks for the 4-time winners, and plus another one that's in there. So you could tell they redid it and put them all in there. I'm not sure if they're original. I'm sure these are new bricks all the way around, but who knows? But obviously it's something that is unique to the Brickyard, having the bricks on the start finish line, and that's a 3 feet, I believe, 1 yard of bricks. That is right there. So that was cool. Like I said, the Ganassi cars look strong. I just have a feeling they were riding around, just making sure they had everything in shape from last year. And then Armstrong was there taking in the action, and they interviewed him. For a 22-year-old, he's very, very mature from what I saw.
And he's cerebral too. He's very smart, seems very academic.
Yeah. And so I got a feeling, this is my personal feeling, and maybe just a hunch, that he's going to do some of the ovals later this year. So look out for that. We'll see what happens. We know Sato is only through the 500. And Sato looked quick, but he didn't do well in Texas. He ended up wrecking a Ganassi car, which Ganassi doesn't enjoy that.
Nope, nobody does, I imagine, right?
So those are the things that I sort of took in while I was, sort of watching it, but not watching it.
So excited, for that to happen. We do have a couple of races that are going to happen in between. One of which is going to happen in less than a week here. It's Barber, and that's the reason why we're here today. We'll get to that, but I do have a couple of things that come to mind here before we get on to Barber, just kind of IndyCar news related. So first, there is a stake, an ownership stake available in what is essentially the Long Beach Grand Prix, right? This was owned by Kevin Kalkoven, who died last year. So I think the estate is liquidating some of these assets. Jerry Forsyth also owns, I think, the other half of this, or
the other half, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he has no intentions of letting this go. Tim, is this not a no-brainer for Penske Entertainment, IMS, IndyCar, whatever entity wants to write the check? Is this not a no-brainer? Right?
Seems like it to me. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah. And today's rumor that talks about Liberty Media, potentially looking at buying IndyCar, and it's like, and they've watered that down. I always feel like where there's smoke, there's fire. Whether or not, it was solicited, you never know. I mean, Liberty could easily come in and make an offer to Penske for the series, and Penske can say no. But, there could always be something there. I don't think that rumors like this get started just out of nowhere. But that kind of brings me back to this, right? If Liberty Media is sniffing around potentially for IndyCar, why wouldn't they be sniffing around for IndyCar's the only crown jewel event that would technically be available to an outsider? Because the Indy 500 is not going to get bought by somebody, right? Wouldn't you be looking at it seriously to buy Long Beach if you had a chance?
I think so. I think you'd dabble in that a little bit, because it is the second biggest event that IndyCar has, and it's the longest running besides the Indy 500. So,
and it's coveted, right? We know that Formula One has coveted this. NASCAR's putting on a Chicago street race next year. So,
did you tell me Formula E was there?
Yeah, Formula E was there. So, I mean, think about it. There's any number of opportunities for rival series to come into purchasing that piece of Grand Prix, the Long Beach Grand Prix. So I guess we'll have to see, right?
Yeah, well, I'll just have to see what happens and how it plays out. But I think Penske Entertainment's going to buy it for sure, I would think. But
you'd think so.
Unless it's way overpriced. You never know.
Yep.
Inflation, everybody. Inflation.
Second piece, and I don't want to spend too much time here. I just want to underscore this. So the heinous comments that were hurled at Callum Ilott after Long Beach, to put it mildly, are entirely unacceptable. Am I surprised? No. But I think people can do better, right? I think people can, and I think people should do better. And I think what happens is when you have this social media anonymity, that you feel like you can just drop something just horrific about someone's family or death threats or whatever else it is, because you have no fear of retribution because you're standing behind, a Twitter handle, is unacceptable. And I just think it's a sport. I think you have to enjoy it. I think, there are wins and losses. Your guy wins sometimes, your guy doesn't, but it doesn't give you license to treat another human being that way. And
I
I think
agree.
people can do better.
Yeah, be nice, people. Knock off.
All right, you ready to talk about Alabama?
I'm ready to talk about Alabama.
This is the children's, I love the name of this, Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix. Right, and this is, of course, the 2023 edition.
Yeah, it was that last year. I think last year was the first time they had
I think you're right.
Sponsorship.
You're absolutely right. I don't know that you can take a look at this race coming up here in less than a week without talking a little bit about last year. And the first thing that I'll say is this race was won by Pato O'Ward in 2022. That same Pato O'Ward, who has been a threat the first two races of 2023. He seemed to have lost a little bit of his composure in Long Beach a week ago. But I would
just
have to say just a little bit that he and his McLaren team have to be favorites. Tim, what do you think?
I would think so. Yeah, they've been very strong. So yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't based on what they did last year and how they performed, the past two races. And if you look at, I should say, the first two races, and if you look at Long Beach, they were strong there as well. And Rossi would have had a great finish, but had a mechanical failure. So
yeah,
I think they're going to do well there, even though we haven't been on a road course yet this year. This is the first road course.
That's absolutely right. So this is a permanent road course. So the next thing that I'll say to you is the darlings of the season so far have been Andretti, right? Major turnaround from that team on the street courses, St. Pete and in Long Beach. They've had an amazing turnaround versus the last couple of years, certainly. But I don't know how they'll perform on the permanent street course. Logic would suggest that they probably have this going for them as well. But I guess we'll have to see, right?
Yeah, you got to wonder if that translates over to Barber Motorsports Park, which is a rolling hill, a lot of oscillation. Excuse me.
Undulation.
And, what's that?
Undulation.
Undulation, not oscillation? Not
oscillation is back and
see,
forth.
I'm way, all right. See, yeah. See, undulation. I thought it was like back and forth, side to side.
Oscillate, yeah, it is. It's what your fan does, right? When you turn on your little desk fan.
And so does the road. It oscillates back. It whines like that. Anyway, I don't know how that's going to translate. I don't know how it's going to translate to this road course. So we'll see what happens on that front. I think they'll be quick though. I think they've shown they put the work in, and they'll be fighting for sure. And I think you'll see some in the Fast Six.
I have to harken back to 2022 because it was, of course, the site of the first round of, Graham Rahal and Romain Grosjean coming together, little bumper cars between the two. My favorite part of that was not, Romain taking out Graham in that race, but it was Graham explaining to Alexander Rossi how he was hit by Romain Grosjean, and he was banging on Alexander Rossi's chest to kind of just demonstrate his point about how he was bumping and banging with Romain. So I especially love that. I'm not looking for that level of theatrics this year, but nonetheless, these are the things.
It still baffles me that he went to Rossi to say that, but yeah, as we all know,
Rossi was a hater at that point, right? Like he was not thrilled with Romain as a teammate.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And that kind of all played out through the season, but I don't think it was known at that point in the season that was the situation. At least it wasn't known to me.
Right. I would expect Ganassi to run strong again, right? They finished second last year with Palou. And let's face it, Ganassi, Tim, have we ever really gone to a race where we say, well, we're not real sure about the package Ganassi's bringing to any track? I mean, they're going to be strong. Let's face it. And this year, strong. 4 out of 4, I think, will be strong.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. You're not going to have one that's always in the back. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's for sure. So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. One
without saying
Jimmy Johnson. Yeah. I'm not picking on Jimmy, but I'm just saying, right?
You are a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm doing it nicely. I'm not making threats, right? So,
but it's true. You
It's
figure
demonstrable, right?
Armstrong's leading
I'm not just saying it.
rookie
Yeah.
points without being in a race. So
Right.
he obviously wasn't at Texas, and he's got a 1 point lead, I think, in the rookie standings. So
Yep.
that shows you he knows how to finish. And I think he finished eighth or ninth or something
Hmm. Yep. The
in Long
Ganassi
Beach.
way,
I think it
right?
was eighth. Yeah.
One outlier for me, and I think this is going to come as a surprise to you and maybe some of the listeners, is Ed Carpenter Racing, right? Not what you'd expect me to say in the lead up for this, but Rinus VeeKay finished third last year at this race.
Yeah, he did.
And in fact, Rinus's best finishes have all come on permanent road courses. And of course, it's right underscored by his win at the Indy GP in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So this team can use a turnaround, and it could use it now.
For sure. Prior to Indy, yes.
Yeah, prior to the
And I'm
500.
talking the 500.
Yep.
Yep.
And just talking about Rinus, he's finished 21st, 11th at Texas, 26th, and he sits 22nd in points.
Yeah, it has not been a good start. And you don't have Connor Daly on here, but his track record is not good on some of these courses either. So
no, he's had a rough start to the season as well.
Yeah, yes. And they got great sponsors. It seems like they're well funded.
Yeah.
We'll see what Rinus can do. I'm not expecting anything, honestly. I'd be very surprised if they do as well as they did last year.
Yeah.
Just based on how they started off and how it's going. And I think their focus has always been and will continue to be on the 500. And some of this other stuff is, I think it's of priority, but for some reason they haven't hit the mark.
No, they haven't. On to the picks. So my picks are out there. Mine are in the notes. So for pole,
yours are.
I'm picking Alex Palou. In his third year with Ganassi, Palou's proving that he is well-rounded IndyCar driver and a threat every race weekend. Period. Mm-hmm. Fight me, dude.
You agree, I think he'll. No, I don't agree.
With the pole, but you agree he's a threat.
I think it's going to be an Andretti car that's going to take the pole, and I think it's going to be Colton Herta. I think they're going to get that ship sort of righted with his team. And I shouldn't say, with the change in the pit box and all that. I think he's due, and I think they've got it together over at Andretti Autosport. And I think
you're picking Herta for the pole. I gotta write that.
I am. Yep. Okay. I got Colton Herta. I just think based on what I saw, what they did, in the first two street courses, they're going to be strong. And I think Herta is ready to sort of take the lead and take the pole, and he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it over his teammates.
Yeah.
And everybody else, of course.
Right. So for the win, Alexander Rossi. Because why not, Tim? Right? He too could use a strong finish here. I believe strongly that Arrow McLaren will be super strong on this course. I think it suits them, and that can pave the way for Rossi to pick up his first win with his new team.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get it. I think I agree with you that it's going to be an Arrow McLaren car that's going to take the first spot and win this thing, but it's going to be Pato again. And not to be boring, I know he won it last year, but I think after last race and what he did, I think he's going to be on points. He's not going to make the same errors that he made, and he's going to come out victorious. He was second in the first two races of the year. Yeah. So
he has to be composed.
And he lost
at this
a little
race.
bit. He lost a championship lead coming out of Long Beach, and I just think he's hungry and he's going to make it happen.
Yeah, he's got to maintain some composure. We'll see how he comes out. He'll be strong all weekend.
I think he will. Doubt. Yep.
Yeah. My dark horse pick, Colton Herta. Right? I think Colton has proven over the years, and I'm saying, right, if Andretti is not on it at this permanent road course, I think that Colton has proven over the past couple of years that he can sort of pick up a less than perfect handling Andretti Autosport prepared Dallara and bring it to the finish. But I'm picking Colton Herta as my dark horse.
Yeah, and I have it's interesting because you've got a a Ganassi driver, an Aero driver, and an Andretti driver. And I've got the same, which is interesting. I go Andretti, Aero, and now Ganassi for my dark horse. And my dark horse is Marcus Armstrong. I
Okay.
think you're going to see something out of this kid that is ready to rock and roll. So I think he's figured out the car over the first two races. Uh, it's back to his roots in sort of the racing he does and he did in
Yep.
Europe. And I think he's going to shine and surprise a lot of people this weekend. So that's my dark horse. And if it's anything like Long Beach dark horse, I don't know. I could be onto something, but I don't know if I am.
It could be. Stories, a couple of stories here I'm watching. I'm tired of saying it, and I think the listeners are probably tired of hearing me say it, but Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan, right? They got this thing turned around. Texas was rock bottom. They had a good Long Beach. Graham was running really well here last year. So I mean, it makes me feel like if some of that can translate to this year, then and they can get all three cars to qualify in the top 15 and practice somewhere in the top 15, then I think, do they have a shot at the win? No, I think some things that have to go really, really right for them and really, really wrong for other cars. But, let's just get them a top 10 finish for 2 out of 3 of these guys or 3 out of 3 of these guys. They're they're starving for it.
Yeah, I'm tired of wondering what they're going to do. So I kind of have written them off, if you will, and said, you know what, I'll start talking about them when they start doing something because they just haven't been able to do anything, and they didn't even look strong at the Indy 500 practice,
No,
which I
they
know is
didn't.
not part of this
Yeah.
conversation, but who knows? We'll see what they do, if anything.
Yeah.
They'll be strong in the race, right, Dan?
Graham will, for
But
sure.
don't look for them, in my opinion, during the qualifying, because I don't think they're going to be there.
Yeah. That's the thing. You can't qualify 20th to 25th and really have a chance at anything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're working too hard to get through the field.
Yeah, and then you're not even like a part of the story. You're just kind of
Right.
there. You're like a field filler. I hate to say
Yep.
that, but that's what it sort of seems like.
Yeah. And that team is too seemingly well funded, too seemingly well capitalized, right?
Hmm.
Same thing, right? Capitalized, funded, but like resource wise, brand new shop, presumably, tremendous machine and resourcing and partnership with Honda and whatever else they're doing. And they have the IMSA team there too. So, I mean, the team is not, right, is not an also ran or kind of a new team that's just coming up and running. I mean, they're Indy 500 winners, they're past champions, they've got an
Hmm.
amazing history. It's just they've got a incredibly horrid run here over the last several years. So they got to
Yeah.
get. Shank is kind of the second thing that I'm watching. I don't know how this team can be so far adrift of the Andretti team, particularly on the street courses, given the fact that
Yeah.
they share a technical alliance. So,
Hmm.
my understanding, and again, we're not insiders, right? But my understanding from, other podcasts as well as, interviews of some of these Andretti drivers as well as the Shank drivers, from an engineering debrief, they're all in the room together. So
Yeah.
the information is wide open sharing. They know what each other are doing or what they're capable of doing and where they're at. Somehow walking out of that Andretti Autosport trailer and back into the Shank tent and putting these cars together, it's just not translating it the same way that it is
Hmm.
on the Andretti side. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of a head scratch. And here's the thing. Even if you say, well, Elio's kind of on the downslope of his career, he's 40, he's our age, Tim, right? He's like 47,
Yep.
48. So
That's your age.
that's my age. But Simon Pagenaud is not, and Simon is still a very quality driver. So you could see it if you could, if you would say, well, you got one side of the garage that's really not holding up their end of the bargain, but they're pretty well equally balanced
Hmm.
here out of the two.
Yeah.
So something's amiss.
Yeah. And then for me, right? So I'm watching a few things. I think number one, I'm watching Team Penske. I know neither of us had them
Mm-mm.
in our picks, but I'm curious to see how they do. Curious to see how they qualify. Um, if you remember last year, Will Power started 19th. He was way in the back for some issue, and he was the most improved driver and finished fourth just off the podium. So if he qualifies well, I think you got to look at him as a potential winner. You have others on the team. Scott started fourth last year, finished sixth. And then you had Joseph that started seventh, and then was 14th overall. So they had some issues. So I'm curious how they come out to play. I'm curious the Chevy Honda, does what happened in Long Beach carry over to Alabama here? So I'm looking at that and just trying to understand how that's going to play out. The other thing that I'm looking at is, total passes. There was 178 last year. Are there going to be more? Is the field coming together? Is it compressing? Does Andretti make a difference with what they've come to the game so far this year, and they've been up front? And what does that mean for the others? And how does that sort of all play out overall? Because I think it's important to just see the competitiveness and what happens year over year at these events.
I think
And then
Andretti being strong does make a difference because now you have three cars, because Devlin hasn't gotten his footing yet this season. But I think you have three cars there every week that you didn't have last year at this time, right? You had Herta was pretty reliable. Rossi was less so, and Grosjean even less so than that, right? And Devlin. But I think this year you have three new cars running at the top consistently to add to the four cars at Ganassi that are running consistently. And you've got Arrow, which seems to be on it this year too, and then you've got Penske. So these are there's your top 12, or do the math. I mean, that's a lot of cars among those teams that are super strong. Are they are they a whole head above the rest of the teams? Probably not, but enough so where three at Penske, three at Andretti, three at Arrow McLaren. That's 9.
And you got 4 at Ganassi, right?
Right. That's 13. So, kind of natural that you say, well, if one team shows up and they're on it 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 4, it doesn't leave a lot for the rest, right? The best you're going to do is 5th.
Yeah. Do you think you'll have a podium sweep by one team this year?
It's quite possible. I think it's very possible.
I think it is too. Even though it's super competitive, I think if someone hits it just right,
we almost had it at Long Beach, right? I mean, was Andretti was 1st, 2nd, and 4th. We almost had it at Long Beach.
Yeah, it was almost.
Yeah,
I think you're going to see that this year. Yeah, and I don't think you're going to see it with Penske for some reason. I think it's going to be one of the other squads, which is really tough to say.
Ganassi.
Yeah. And last year you had 4 cars that led a lap. So I wonder if that changes year to year. I want to see how the series evolves, how things sort of change now that we've seen the first 3 races, and how competitive it is amongst the 4 teams at the top. We'll call them.
Right.
It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Always one of my favorite places to watch. Yeah. It looks really, really nice.
It seems like it draws in a good crowd. There's a lot of people there that go out to watch it. It looks like it's it's one of those courses that you walk around the track and find different places to sit and do your thing. So
in a market that you would consider not to be a traditional IndyCar market.
Correct.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. There we have it. I do want to call out our web content partner, IndyCar1909.com. Look, if you haven't checked this out yet, there's great stuff there. Spencer, who writes these articles and puts these things together, does a really great job of bringing you the information, and is very consistent and puts things out there too. This isn't his full-time job either, and he does a really nice job of keeping up with it. and putting good quality content out there. So if you haven't yet, please visit our web content partner, IndyCar1909.com.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all I got, Timmy.
And I'm just going to remind the listeners that don't forget that 100 Days to Indy airs this week on the CW, the 27th. Yes, this Thursday. It looks like it's 9 p.m. Eastern here for those of us in the Eastern time zone. I'm a little baffled, Dan, that it's head to head with the NFL draft, but I don't know if that really matters. I don't know if any of those folks would come over, but you might lose some people to the draft that are going to tape this.
You know why I'm okay with it? Because the CW has a fantastic streaming service, right? An app.
Okay.
So I'm okay with it. Gives people options. DVR, obviously, you can watch it on demand and watch it on the CW. So streaming.
I got my DVR set. I don't know about you. I did it today.
I don't. I'm traveling, so I was hoping to be back by then, but it is a good call out by me. I don't have the DVR set for it. I should be home by then on Thursday.
All right.
Yeah. And it's also that's also I'm not flying. My dear mother-in-law's birthday as well, April 27th.
Oh wow!
It's also the day that my current gym membership expires, so I got to renew that as well.
Are you renewing?
Well, yeah, I only swim there, as you know. I only swim at that gym.
Oh yeah,
I don't do anything else there. Yeah. So that's all I got.
It's because you have a full circuit in your basement, right?
Yeah. COVID.
Yeah.
Yep.
COVID. Yeah, we
bought everything I needed.
A bunch of stuff too. I don't use it that often, as you can tell, but cool. So, good stuff, Dan.
Well, that's it. That's all I got. That's all you got. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Looking forward to a great race in Barber, and we'll be right back here right after to talk about what actually happened.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye-bye, everybody.